Welcome to Veronica Live, and we are here with, X is my new playground, and I keep bumping into people that are doing amazing things. And I bumped into the based mother, Elana Barbera. She's got a movie called American Groomer, The Kids Are Not Right. And you're fighting, hashtag leave the kids alone. You're fighting for our children. Welcome, Elana, to Veronica Live.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me today.
Well, I turned on the movie and I watched it like in 2 times speed, and I couldn't even look at some of the pictures and the discussion. And you had like a whole 2 sofas with a bunch of grandparents who were as scandalized. And then I saw a couple of the pictures, and I've had Moms for Liberty on, and I was scarred for life from that story. So today I was scarred again with some of the things I saw in the movie.
Yep.
And I'm glad you're fighting for this, because I mean, why are we pushing these books and these agendas? Let's start there for children that just, I say this all the time. They want Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy, and they don't want to talk about sex and how to have sex and who to have sex with. So who's pushing all of this?
Okay, there's 2 questions there. So there's the why and there's the who. The why is, if you're just entering this world and this conversation, is going to be really hard to even swallow. But the fact of the matter is, there is a push to try to normalize pedophilia. That sounds like 7 feet deep and like I'm wearing a tinfoil hat. But
yeah, it does to so many.
Yeah, but it's not. I believe every word of that.
Right, but it's not. The other why is it's extremely profitable to get children addicted to sex, abortion, STD treatments, mental health care, and so on and so on. So those are the whys. The who is actually the Federal Library Association. It's Planned Parenthood, SECUS, which is the Sexual Information and Education Council of the United States, which has which is like the largest, most influential organization when it comes to what we're teaching our kids in schools. And it is the teachers' unions also. That's just, off the top of my head, who's behind it. And it started in the 1940s with a man named Alfred Kinsey, who did this crazy science where he determines that children are sexual from birth, and there's no limit on when you can engage in sex with children.
I was scandalized by that in your video, and you talk about how the Rockefellers who were loaded were part of his funding, and I like, what the hell? Why are people going after our children? And I mean, all 3 of us have clarity that this is wrong. What's wrong with our society? Even in 1940, when people were prim and proper, this was going on.
I can't understand. I can't wrap my head around how in the 40s, when he came out with this quote-unquote science, which involved records of sexual abuse of children from 2 months old to, I think, 16, where he tested children to see how many orgasms they could have in a 24-hour period. Like, they did this on 2-month-olds. It's beyond barbaric. I can't understand how at that time this man wasn't shunned and thrown into a dark cave somewhere, and he actually found people instead who embraced his quote-unquote science and decided to fund him and follow him. And that is, his students are the ones who founded Planned Parenthood, who founded SECUS. Yeah, so he's the root of it. So to think, a lot of people think, oh, this is just something that's going on in crazy blue cities. No, this started in the Truman administration, and or during those years, not to blame Truman, just to be for clarity, during those years, and it is happening in red states, blue states. There is no child in America who's safe from this.
And how did you get involved in this? I mean, what's your background that you now made a movie about this?
My background has nothing to do with any of this. And a couple of years ago, my son asked me to sit for a YouTube video with him. He said, "Mom, I want to start a new channel, and I want to do a mom reacts video." And I said, "What is a mom reacts video?" And then that is where you sit your mom down in front of a camera and you show her crazy things on the internet, and then you talk about it, right? So anyway, we do this video and it blows up and it becomes a thing where now we're making YouTube videos. I had never aspired to anything like that. That's the only reason that I felt comfortable, entering this field at all. I'm not a filmmaker. I have no experience. So last year I was, hearing a lot of news from the mainstream media saying that, these crazy right-wing maniacs are banning books. And I'm like, well, I am all about the Constitution and our rights. I'm certainly not into censorship. Let me take a look at these books. I bought the books. I read the books, and I about fell over what was in them. And I realized that the mainstream media was lying and running cover for groomers. And so I started telling people about it. And they were saying what exactly as expected. That's not happening. No way. You're lying, telling me I'm lying. And I realized I needed to get the word out. And these minimal new skills that I had developed because my son had me on YouTube, I decided to figure out how to interview people and how to write a documentary and how to produce it. And I did it with like a little over $6,000 and a lot of elbow grease, like a total maniac. I just said, I have to do something to combat this insanity in my country. So here we are.
And how's the reception been? Because, I mean, in the video, you're walking around, talking to normal people, showing them these things, and they're all like, what? And I know from having Moms for Liberty, and then, John and I are tuned into reading news 24/7 that this is out there. On your X page, you've got some fun facts. In 39 states, it's legal to show porn to school children. So I mean, the reaction, all the people in the video are shocked. I was shocked, and I did see a couple more of the gender queer pictures, and I'm going to be scarred, continue to be scarred for life. John laughs because he was in the room when I screamed. I literally screamed I had been bit by like 12 wasps.
It was a picture book for children, for third graders. I mean, it was appalling what was in this book, and they're Florida's banning books, and it's like that is like X-rated 21, at least 21 to be looking at, but they're showing little kids this stuff, it's obscene.
What I can tell you is that since I made the film, I've hooked up with other people who have been in this space for years fighting, who I didn't know about. And they have shown me things that make that look like child's play. There are passages in books that are not necessarily the graphic novel with the cartoon images that we're talking about, that are so vulgar and obscene and violent that you would never, ever want to read them anywhere, never mind put them in the hands of a kid. So I've seen things that are far worse than what I showed in the movie and the things I've learned. It's just, I can't even remember what your original question was, but the response, I think you said.
Yes, the response to the movie. Sorry, I get fired up because it's so maddening that people would want to, hurt children or expose children to any of this. I mean, it's a sexualization is what it is.
Well, and what I find interesting is, I know there was a video on where they had one dad reading at the school board meeting, reading from a book that was available to his child in the library, and they're calling him down for reading this obscene language in a public forum. And it's like, wait a minute, this is what you're teaching our kids. This is what you're letting them read. Why are you ashamed to have me speak it here at the school board meeting?
The irony of it, if you read that in any board meeting at your job, you would be fired for sexual harassment immediately. That day, you'd be shown the door if you read some of these materials. It's really crazy, but we can give it to kids. And this is the response that I have been getting, which is what I wanted to do. So I wanted to wake up American parents and grandparents and make them angry. So that's working. And I wanted to make the people who are doing this angry. And that's also working because, I want them to know that I'm coming to wake up the parents and we're going to expose what you're doing to our kids. And I want the parents to see for themselves how it happens and exactly how dangerous this is. And if I knew now what I knew when I made the film a year ago, when I was filming, it would have been 2 hours long because I've learned so much more. But
Well,
I think
just
it's a
have to do
good
part 2.
starting point.
That's what you'll have to do.
Yeah, right.
How widespread do you think this problem is? Because I've learned a lot on YouTube, unfortunately, in the past couple of years. But you've got what seems to be a breakdown in young women in particular about their sexual norms. I learned things like what a 304 is, and stuff like that. And it's like, and they get on there and they're boasting how they've had 100 the medical abortions 100 times they've taken that pill. It's just, it's like they don't care anymore. And I noticed you were on the what is it, whatever podcast, which I find interesting. But
I was on Fresh and Fit. I was on Fresh and Fit. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's always some interesting conversations, and I was people overrate themselves, but in a lot of cases, but they have and the OnlyFans thing. I mean, is that a fad, or is that just really the mentality of the young people these days? I'll tell you, I'm 69. Okay, I can't register with the mentality of what I see on the YouTube these days.
It's so sad. It is extremely widespread. Part of it is because of what they're being taught in school. I mean, they're being taught from when they're little that abortion is just part of life. Like that's okay. So you can have as much sex as you want, love whoever you want. I was visiting with a cousin, and their 12-year-old daughter came and sat down next to me, and we were just chatting, and she was totally cute, adorable kid. But she's telling me about the other kids in school, and this one is pansexual, this one thinks she's a lesbian, and she's 12, and I'm thinking, right. And she left the room, and I go, did I just sit down and have a conversation with a 12-year-old about pansexuality? Like
I have to look it up when I see that word, because I'm like, what does that mean again? Because I don't want it to stick in my head every time we have to deal with that subject.
So this is, they're doing it in school. There are clubs for it. Then you get, we have the societal problem, frankly, of this is weird, but feminism really has destroyed the family. I was a victim of feminist ideology to a point when I was younger. Convinced that the world was my oyster, when it really wasn't. It was a poison oyster. And if anything, so you have that ideology sweeping through. Then you have, again, because of feminism, we have a higher divorce rate. We have everybody in the workforce trying to be a boss babe instead of raising their kids. So kids are left with their phones. And then you have inside the phone constant sexualization. In the media, even in cartoons, they're teaching children that their gender is fluid and they can be whatever they want. And their parents may have gotten their gender wrong when they were born. And so all those things are putting a literal focus on genitalia from pre-K.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. So are you connected to any legislators that are running with you? Who's helping you get this video all over?
So it's funny. I'm kind of a lone ranger out here with the film. But I am working with certain organizations more now. One that I'm really closely aligned with is Take Back the Classroom. This woman named Karen England. So she and I were on Newsmax one day on a panel, and we're live on television, and both of us were thinking, I got to talk to this lady. So within 10 minutes after we got off the air, we were on the phone. And she has been in this fight for decades. She has been watching it unfold while the rest of us were completely asleep at the wheel, not knowing what was happening. And she has this organization, Take Back the Classroom, and they have a small army of volunteers that investigate district by district, and they find out which pornography is in the schools, and they publish it. And then they also train parents what to do next, how to challenge your school board, how to fight for parental rights in your district. So they're amazing.
Are you getting pushback? Because, I'm always I just bought my check mark. I talk about it all the time. John's tired of hearing about it a few months ago, but I've been on almost 6 million feeds, and I get pushback because I fight against people with these things. And it was probably less than 2 weeks ago, somebody was telling me that Moms for Liberty, these books, you're just making it up. And, and I know I've had multiple calls with Moms for Liberty from 2 counties from where I live and had them on my show. So this is real. This is real. And I'm sure these are, loser libs that they're okay with what's going on. But have you gotten pushback? Because, I've been called every word under the sun, and it's just verbal. But, yeah. How are you dealing with it?
Oh, I get plenty of pushback, plenty of insults. I'm called, everything from a groomer to an incel to, an old hag. I just don't care, because I'm with you and, we started talking about, the fact that we're Christians.
Yes.
And to me, like, part of the reason I made this film was, what I prayed about it and like, what do I do? And this is what came to me. And so I do pray about this and say, just give me the strength to keep fighting because I know I'm doing what's right for your children. And that's it. And I don't care. So you can call me a name. You can make fun of my face. You can say I'm old. I go ahead. Like you're not winning with that. So I'm okay with it. And I feel like also there's a practical side to people coming on my pages and saying mean things about me because they're feeding the algorithm. So every time they say something mean about me, there's a chance that one more person's going to see it.
And
so
what does
look at the bright side.
Right, the bright side of when they hate you, oh yeah, they always go after my looks. So that was a good one, continually. So what does the base mother mean? That's what you go by as your kind of call sign on X.
Well, so based means somebody who tells the truth. It's just one of those, like how you learned 304, if you like.
I don't know what that means, by the way. I'm afraid to Google it. So
John, you can tell her after the show.
My mother was foreign, so I didn't even know what 420 was until last year. And I was like, oh, that's the day you smoke pot? So I live in a bubble, and I've had a show for almost 4 years.
Well, when you hang out with a 20-year-old on YouTube, or my son, he's now 21, right? You have to spend a lot of time on the Urban Dictionary, where she's learning what the kids.
I'll look it up in private later. I'm afraid.
Yeah. So based means somebody that tells the truth, and the nickname, the based mother, was actually given to me by somebody who's very controversial. But it works, again, in my favor as far as getting the word out. Andrew Tate, who you may or may not know, super controversial, has been accused of sex trafficking, but it never sticks. I mean, him and his brother, Tristan, they caught wind of a video my son and I did, and I said something that was, he thought, pretty based. So he said, have you heard of the based mother? And they played our clip. So that name just stuck afterwards, and I used it because I like the deeper meaning of it. Somebody that's telling the truth, and that is kind of who I am, which has not always worked in my favor in my life, but it is.
That means you're going for sainthood, Elana. You're going for sainthood. Well, and your family must be so proud of you. I mean, because the bottom line is, our nation is just it's upside down with we don't have intact families, and then nobody believes in God, and I think these are all driving factors. And then these children are looking for something, and there's definitely groomers out there. So what does your family say? They must be so proud of you.
Some of them are, and some of them think I'm absurd.
Really?
There's political lines even within the family. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. Most of them, though, are very encouraging and proud of me. Yeah.
Elana, I just want to tell you, I think what you're doing is great. And a few months ago, I had to sit on a jury, and it was a trial by a 54-year-old man grooming and having sex with, and I won't even go in. It was a pretty disgusting and disturbing sitting there listening to this testimony, listening to what was a 12-year-old, now 16, testifying about what was going on. And I tell you what, if there were people that wouldn't sit on the jury, they just couldn't do it because they couldn't handle what was going on. And I'm pleased to say the guy got 3 life sentences, but it is a serious problem that's going on in the society, and it's like we're trying to normalize this behavior.
Yeah.
And
I'd like to respond to that because what happens in grooming is like the non-contact sexual abuse part of it is where children get used to the idea. So then when children are being groomed all day in school and they're used to the idea that they should be thinking about and having sex, then you have a creep like the one you just alluded to come into their life, whether it's an uncle, a teacher, a coach, whoever, a stranger on the internet, it doesn't matter. That child is already primed and ready to go. That makes their job so much easier to turn non-contact sexual abuse into contact sexual abuse. And that is 1,000 times that, like, I can't say enough how important it is to protect children and let them know that it is not okay. So they run screaming before somebody like that even gets to take an inch on the kid.
Well, what are we missing, Elana? I mean, I think you're a superhero, and there's superheroes out there. We've had, I know the Tim Tebow is constantly fighting for it. We've had Jocko Junens, whose sister was groomed in South Africa by, winning an American Idol contest. So they're everywhere, these crazy groomers, don't you think?
Yeah. Yes, it's everywhere. And the deeper I go, the more I learn, the more disturbed I get, but the more fired up I get. And that's why I think that we have to, and people will say to me, though, well, it's happening everywhere. So, why are you even bothering with the school? And I'm like, listen, I'm going to focus on the schools because just because it's happening everywhere else doesn't mean we should be allowing it here. It's all the more reason to protect children 8 hours a day. And that just for the reason I just stated, because when the sex trafficker reaches out to your kid on TikTok, your kid should be appalled, not used to it already.
And I see on your pinned on your X that you were actually kicked off of YouTube. That seems to be a trend item for conservatives. It's a badge of honor. I'm waiting for the day when, because my show goes out on 25 platforms. It's still, there. I'm like, when am I going to be? Probably because I had you on today, Elana. I'll get kicked off.
Get your Rumble channel, yeah.
Yeah. I know it was. I had built it I built a channel. I had about 11,000 subscribers.
Oh, wow, nice.
Very, very quickly, like within 6 months, I was able to build it. And because, my son and I were working together, and then he was like 19 and he was like, I don't want to do this with my mom anymore, which is totally understandable. So he went, and I was like, well, this is what I do now. So I started my own YouTube channel, built it up fast, walked out of a store one day and it was gone, just gone. They wouldn't even talk to me.
Yeah.
So it happened. It is a badge of honor because when I see what they're doing, I'm okay with it. And I have a YouTube channel now. It's very small. I started a new one, but I don't invest any time into it at all, because why would I try to give them content and make them money when they can just shut my store down, basically. It's like having a storefront and somebody changes the lock while you're asleep.
Well, that's why you need to move over to Rumble, because they don't do that at Rumble, and this needs to get out. It really does. And if YouTube's not going to provide you a venue, then pick a platform that will. There are alternatives out there. But this is an important message.
I think you're right. People need to know that. Yeah.
Well,
I'm
Elana,
on Rumble, but you're right.
What are we missing here? You get the final comment.
Well, I would say I would like for people to watch the film as a baseline so that they can get educated on how it happened, what's actually going on. Step one. And you can see the film. I made it free because it's too important to charge for, in my opinion. It's AmericanGroomerFilm.com where you can see it. And then the next thing I would say is go to Take Back the Classroom, see if they've had the chance to investigate your school district yet. Get involved with your local school board. When you find this stuff in your school board, hold their feet to the fire. There's a process that Take Back the Classroom can take you through to help you get rid of the books.
Okay.
But start there. That's already too many to-dos. Start with the film.
I'm so glad because you liked me on X, and I always look. I'm like, who's liking me? I look at everybody that likes me because if you're a devil worshiper, I'm blocking you. But I was like, oh my gosh, who's this lady? And then I messaged you because I'm like, oh, I've got to have her on. And it's we've been talking with Elana Barbera, and she's the based BASED mother. And your movie's American Groomer, The Kids Are Not All Right. I mean, I'm still scarred from it, but you're doing God's work. And Saint Elana, it's been a pleasure having you on Veronica Live today.
Hardly a saint, but just trying to do some good works while I'm here.
That's right. You're doing some good works. That's what counts.
God bless you, Elana, and we'll have you back for sure.
Thank you. And I will let you know if anything exciting happens in the meantime, because I'm out here, doing this. And thank you so much for reaching out and having me on. This is a great conversation. And so nice to meet you guys.
Yeah. So thanks for joining Veronica Live.